Hey, I'm Owen from Square Balloon, and I promise you, your website will look bad if your photographer doesn't do these things. I'm going to talk you through some of the things that we have done with photographers in the past, some of the things where we've either made mistakes or been completely unaware that the client was about to book a photographer, didn't use our photographer, went away and did it themselves, and then came back and gave us the photos, and we're like, right, we're supposed to build a website with these photos or something like that. So let's get started. I'll talk you through some of these things. So there's plenty of things that you could consider, and one of the things I would highly recommend is having a brief. Having a brief for your photographer. If you are a photographer, have a brief for your client. If you're a web designer, have one for your client and your photographer, because like I said, they'll go away and book one without you knowing, and they might even book it right from the very off, right from when you just discussing potentially building a website. So have a brief for sure. Here's what can happen. You can get supplied a load of headshots by a photographer who's gone away, he's done headshots. That's what the client asked for. They haven't done anything wrong, but they don't really know what they're doing. So they, not the photographer, the client. So they can do things like this as well. This isn't a photographer. This is what the client sent. But as you can see, I briefed the client. Please make sure at very least they all have the same background. As you can see, they all have different backgrounds, although I guess these two have the same, but the other two have different backgrounds. I also said please make sure you get full body shots so I can crop them in the correct way. As you can see, this girl has kind of a close-up headshot. She immediately looks like half as tall as the rest of the guys. I don't know, maybe she is very short, but if we'd done a full body shot, I could have made that look less weird on a website. It looks really strange that she suddenly just drops down. So brief them on things like that. Brief your customer because they may go and do it themselves without you. Um, and and this is great. These are obviously professional, taken by a photographer, and there are a lot more of these than just these. So it's not all bad. But if you get this coming back to you as a web designer, you are very limited in what you can do. You're probably going to pick the best one of the guy in the black shirt, right? It'll be fine. He'll look great. He'll have the best picture of him. But when you go to using photographs around the website, there isn't enough diversity, and you can't just keep using the same one over and over again. So it becomes too repetitive, basically. But if you don't brief the photographer or the client, this is the sort of thing you will get back, and you'll be making a website with this and some stock photos or something else. Here's what you can do. You can have some fun with it. These guys had a sensible photograph and a messing around photograph. So whenever we hovered on this team photo, they had them doing something crazy. So that's a good idea, but you can only do these things if you've thought about them up front. So you might want to think about having a look at competitors, having a look at maybe some blogs about interesting things that people have done, maybe some good examples, or maybe go on stock photography websites and stuff like that. But think of these ideas before the photo shoot. If you try and do them on the day, um, everyone feels insecure about having the photo taken and under pressure, so they're not being creative on that day and thinking of things very well. A lot of people are just nervous and want to get it over and done with. You can do things like this. It's not a problem to have your bog standard headshot, but if you are going to do it, think of certain things. So everybody, if they're standing, I'm standing slightly to the side here. If you're going to do that, make sure everybody stands in a similar pose, or all straight on, or all sitting down, or whatever it is you're doing. The consistency will help you when it comes down to getting these things looking great on the website. But if you're not sure, take one standing up, one sitting down, one slightly to the side. It doesn't take that long to take 3 or 4 different poses, and it's better to have too many than not enough. Um, think about maybe some fun backgrounds. These are just a building we were in, which is very, very fun backgrounds, and we made sure everybody stood next to a choice of a fun background. Didn't matter really who stood next to what. It's because we're a creative agency, we wanted to show some creativity in our headshots. Take pictures of doing work, of course. It's very unlikely that Grace here would ever have been doing social media on a laptop and on a phone at the same time, but it's okay to slightly exaggerate these things. Of course, there are chances that she might be checking how does something look on a phone as well as on the laptop. So it is worth doing it, but it really, really highlights kind of social media at that point. take some team shots, of course, take all of you together, but think of a few different ways. Don't just take them all in the same place. Um, if you could take them in other ways, then do it. And of course, internal meetings or doing work again. Just it's really, really useful that you can take these sorts of pictures. You're only going to get probably one photo shoot. You're going to be there once. People are not going to sign up to do it again. You might need to get a lot of people to come into the office or meet at a certain location. It might be hard to get that again. So make sure you take a lot of these photos. This one is of them from the side. You can also take them from behind, from in front. If I was you, I would ask the photographer to set this up and then do a few shots of this scene from the behind, from in front, different angles. Perhaps add another member of staff to the scene. Perhaps rotate it so different two members of staff are sitting there, one in the background. And of course, if you look here on the background, we have our screen and we have some of our work on it. So if you have got something visual, please do put that on the background somehow if you've got a monitor, or even if you've got posters of your work around the office or something like that. If you've got awards, put them in the background, that would be useful. And don't forget, if you've got anything that's like GDPR concerns, do not put it in the background, or even maybe on some portfolio you might want to remove a client's name. You can get some fun shots like this. This is us with a whiteboard. But don't forget, you need to think about these things up front. So plan ahead. Think about what props you might need. If you haven't got a whiteboard there, bring one, or if you need an A-frame with some paper on it, that would be great too. Think about what you're writing in the middle. Please don't write an actual client name, but think about all of the different things that are related to your business. Again, you can over-exaggerate by having multiple devices. You can put portfolio on screens. This is another example of an internal meeting where one staff member is explaining stuff to everybody else. And in this occasion, we've gone kind of close up on Sean. He's explaining it. We've got Liz's head there, but we haven't got the whole team. But we have got other shots where we have got the whole team there. So do some close up, do some further away. Give that variety. Do them from different angles again, like I said before. Have some conversations with a client. Doesn't have to be a real client. You can get a patsy in there if you need to, but it's still worth having a conversation with a client, and it's worth having a meeting with a client. Perhaps you're explaining stuff, showing some data, whatever it is. Just try and get as much variety as possible because it will come in useful in the future. Obviously, a classic handshake with a client. We're doing a deal. We're successful. This is a great shot, but this has not taken us long to do multiple of these shots. One talking, one shaking a hand. It's very easy to do. More team meetings, again with stuff in the background. This one from a slightly different angle. What I would say is, although I have said take as many different diverse pictures, you still need to take multiples of the same angle as well. As you can see, Grace has kind of got her mouth in a weird position here. And if we look at the next one, we can see that here Liz has got her eyes closed, so we're glad we took multiples. But also, they weren't all. This one is Liz having fun and laughing. Grace from this slightly different angle. And this one, Liz looks a bit more serious, and here she looks a bit more serious. It's really useful to have both serious and fun pictures because there may be a serious topic that you're writing about on your blog, and you don't want a really fun, happy face when you're talking about a GDPR something or other, or a new law or something. Yeah, do use your work. So we have an SEO report on the screen. Obviously, try to remove customers' names if that's important. Here we've got 4 staff members and 1 explaining it. You can also rotate this, so then have 2 staff members, 1 staff member, 3, different person on the whiteboard. All of these adds a lot of diversity to your images. And some fun ones. Here we've actually got a beer in the shot and we're talking, we're having a laugh, and we're actually having some downtime. So we're in the same location, we haven't moved, but we're just making the most of our time with the photographer. And again, from a slightly different angle, make sure you include both men and women, make sure you mix up the groups as well. You can do some fun stuff, having a high five in there. It's really good, shows positivity, success, a happy team. Don't forget you're going to have potentially people who you're recruiting who are coming to your website. They might want to see you all high-fiving and being happy, having a great time. Show the culture of the company if you can. And of course, yeah, this is another example where we've only got 3 members in here and member staff, but Lawrence is very serious. We could potentially use this in a serious photo shoot in the future. We have remembered to bring pens and a whiteboard. We have remembered to take one of Liz on her own doing a whiteboard, but we've also done some further away. Same whiteboard, but from a side angle, looks completely different and a completely different view of the staff paying attention to whatever it is I'm writing. I don't even need to have written anything on the whiteboard for this particular shot. Here's an example of our photographer. He's got a prop, so if you can use props in your work, then do it. If you've got something fun, like you love cats, so you want to hold a cat, feel free. It's your choice, it's your company, but all of it needs to be briefed up front, or else nobody's going to bring a cat to work. This photographer is Craig. He's in 2 different places, 2 different backgrounds, and standing in slightly different positions. But he has got his camera, so everyone knows he's a photographer. But we have, nice fun backgrounds. Take some pictures of the photo shoot happening. This is really great for posting on social media and shouting to the team, look, something coming soon, something exciting. In this particular photo, I decided to stand behind a plant deliberately so that it looked more like an action shot. Also kept me out of the way a bit. You can see Grace in the background taking photos too. This is just the team sitting in an outside location right next to the place we took the photo shoot. So change your backgrounds, change your locations. You're only there for a short while. Get it all done as much as you can. And if you can think about how to get your brand values into the photo shoot, that is good. I've deliberately picked the word consistency here because it's not something that I could think of a photo for straight away. But what I would advise you to is to go on places like Shutterstock, have a look at things that relate to your brand values, come up with things that you like. I thought this was a good one. Going to the gym shows consistency. Um, Obviously, these guys have got like some Jenga type blocks. You don't really need to have written the words on them. You could Photoshop that in afterwards potentially, or you could write the words on it. It's up to you. But this is just an example of how to do some research. And maybe if you're doing the research, print these out before you go to your photo shoot so you remember. And that's the whole idea of having a brief and a guideline as well. It's really good to have your own photography that looks like stock photography. You've got filters here, so I've made sure that it's only on photos, which is obviously important. But I could also, aside from the word, I could potentially look for things that were only contained people or something like that. There's lots of filters that you can use. Um, and yeah, here's another example. If we were going to do this, we would have had to have brought some Scrabble letters with us, and if we haven't, we can't take this photo. But if we've planned ahead, we can do. So really do think about what you're looking to do, come up with the ideas, come up with a list of things. And on the day, like I said, everybody will be under pressure and feeling like just get it over and done with. You need to have it written down what photos you're going to take so you don't miss any. And if I was going to say something, I would say think about saying to your photographer or to your team, we are going to take 5 shots of us in a meeting with a client. We're going to take 5 other shots of us from the side in a meeting with a client, 5 from the front. Okay, now we're going to be explaining something to a client. Now we're delivering a report to a client. Now we're selling to the client. All of these different things can have a different scenario which you could use when it comes to making your photography session A, efficient, and B, varied enough so that you have enough photos to use on your website, on your brochures. They potentially could be used in so many different areas. Social media is another good one. Presentations in the future. This is one of me kind of messing around with the client, but there's nothing wrong in showing some fun as well. I guess the whole idea was to try and show as much diversity as possible because you're going to use these in lots of places. And the last thing you want is what I had shown you at the very beginning, just 10 headshots of one guy in the same place. It's not really usable throughout a website. But by being prepared, you can have this stuff. That's the end of my presentation. I hope it helps. We are going to build a white paper showing you some ideas that you could use as a brief when you go to your photo shoot, or that you could send to your photographer, or that you could use as a checklist when you're on your photography day so you don't miss anything out. And I hope that really helps you guys. Thanks for watching.